In 1912, Titanic sank and vanished from the map. For 73 years, no one saw the ship again. In the reports, only fuzzy numbers, confused echoes, and maps packed with doubt. Now it's 1985. A research team crosses the North Atlantic with deep-sea cameras and towed sonar, trying to find what every earlier expedition failed to find. Before descending to 3,800 meters where Titanic rests, like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next discoveries. In 1912, Titanic sank in a poorly mapped region of the North Atlantic, leaving only rough coordinates transmitted by radio. Currents, shipboard clock errors, and the confusion of the night created uncertainty about the exact sinking point. In the decades that followed, maps and testimonies narrowed it down to a broad quadrant, one that was nearly impossible to search completely. Early missions from the 1920s to the 1960s used simple sonar that flagged only major seafloor irregularities. Many expeditions returned without images, bringing imprecise charts and even more doubt about where the ship truly lay. In the control room, the 1985 team compares its data with decades of failed attempts. Since the 1920s, low-resolution sonar had recorded only vague smudges on the Atlantic floor. Any rise could be Titanic's hull or just rock. Old maps, military reports, and civilian charts rarely agreed. The researchers conclude that instead of searching for the ship directly, they must first locate a debris field scattered across the seabed. As the deep tow system advances, the monitors begin to show subtle changes in the seafloor line. Not a tall ridge, but a sequence that breaks the uniform pattern seen until now. The researchers know that large ships don't leave a single point. They leave a trail of wreckage. The team logs the time, the depth near 3,800 meters, and marks the position on the map. It's still too early to claim anything, but this sector becomes a priority scan zone. The decision is to repeat the run from a different angle to confirm the signal. Hours of scanning make it clear why Titanic stayed hidden for 73 years. The North Atlantic floor holds vast stretches that look nearly identical, with small irregularities that can mislead any quick interpretation. In 1985, the team decides to recheck weak contacts from different angles, building a mosaic of tracks. The researchers know a single line isn't enough. Only repeated patterns can indicate a real debris field. The strategy is to turn isolated signals into consistent evidence, even if that requires entire nights of slow navigation. Repeated data begins to suggest something more than natural relief. Small rises align in a band, as if something broke apart and scattered across the seafloor. The researchers compare current plots with 1912 accounts and recall that many survivors mentioned the possibility that Titanic split into more than one section. The evidence points to not a single object, but a wide field. The decision is to adjust the deep tow altitude and prioritize visual footage, searching for clearly man-made shapes. New passes confirm the anomalies aren't isolated points. The rises repeat in bands, with lengths consistent with large metal structures. The researchers compare scale readings on paper and realize that some signals match the approximate size of boilers and internal parts of a high-tonnage ship. There is still no crisp image, only patterns. The evidence suggests the team is closing in on a significant debris field, but visual confirmation still depends on better camera positioning. With the target area defined, the team decides to devote the entire night to slow passes over the same sector. The goal is simple: capture at least one image showing a clearly artificial form. At 3,800 meters, any preserved metal structure is a strong sign of a major wreck. The earlier evidence already points to an extensive debris field. If cylindrical pieces, rails, or aligned plates appear, the researchers will know they're looking at something far larger than a lone obstacle on the seafloor. The cylinder images leave no doubt. The shape is rigid, regular, and incompatible with natural terrain. Measurements taken from the video are close to the boilers listed in Titanic's plans. The researchers know boilers rarely appear alone in a wreck of this scale. If more matching pieces are found nearby, the Titanic debris field hypothesis gains real weight. The priority now is to locate a cluster of cylindrical structures along the same depth band. For the team, the sequence of cylinders changes the status of the search. The measurements match the boiler set of a major early 20th century ocean liner. The evidence suggests this is not random wreckage, but an organized group of heavy structures. The researchers log position, depth, and alignment against Titanic's original route. Everything points to a meaningful debris field, possibly tied to the ship, but they still need an image that reveals an unmistakable structure. Now, with a dense boiler field mapped, the team begins hunting larger pieces, hull sections, winches, and rails that can confirm a major ship. The dimensions, depth, and location align with calculations of Titanic's final route. Each new pass strengthens the seabed mosaic and shrinks the margin of doubt. The researchers know they are closing in on the main target. If you want to follow this approach frame by frame, like the video and follow the channel for the next blocks of the investigation. As the equipment nears an elongated rise, the sonar line sharpens into more defined contours. The shape is long, low, and bordered by nearly straight edges. That's inconsistent with a natural hill. Rough measurements suggest tens of meters in length, a scale compatible with a large hull structure. The researchers log its alignment relative to the boiler field already mapped. The evidence suggests the deep tow is encountering outer sections of the ship, not just loose fragments. Now, they must trace the edge from multiple angles to confirm the geometry. With the hull edge identified, the team resets priorities. Capture clear visual details of deck structures. Operators slow down, adjust the camera angle, and keep the lights trained on the zone where the hull appears to rise. In wrecks of this scale, winches, railings, bollards, and tracks often survive as reliable landmarks. The evidence suggests the deep tow is about to cross areas where these elements may appear for the first time in an unmistakable way. New passes reveal something beyond scattered debris. For the first time, classic deck elements appear, aligned bollards, railings, and structures resembling winch bases. The dimensions and position beside the boiler field point to the upper portion of a large ship. The team compares the images with 1912 plans and sees a pattern consistent with the bow region of an ocean liner. It isn't final confirmation yet, but the technical picture is now pointing toward Titanic. With bollards, winches, and anchor chain identified, the team begins treating the area as the likely bow of a major liner. The images closely match what is known of Titanic's configuration in 1912. The question is no longer whether there is a ship here. It is whether this preserved structure truly belongs to the vessel lost for 73 years. The decision is to widen the field of view, searching for a broader outline of the bow. If the camera captures the characteristic silhouette, the search shifts phases. It stops being about location and becomes detailed documentation of the wreck. The first profile images suggest the camera is passing extremely close to a tall structure. The curve, the angle, and the position relative to the boiler field match what you'd expect from the bow of a great ocean liner. The researchers adjust the route so the camera sled pulls back several meters and runs along the side of the rise. The intent is simple and direct. Capture a wide enough outline to recognize, in a single frame, the unmistakable shape of a hull standing on the ocean floor. When the camera pulls back a few meters, the shape becomes more than a lit fragment. For the first time, the bow profile appears with continuity. A rising hull, curved plates, and an inclined line pointing upward, exactly like Titanic's side plans. The combination of position, depth, and deck structures nearly eliminates every other possibility. For the 1985 team, this is no longer the search for an unknown ship. They are finally face to face with Titanic. After documenting the bow in detail, the team returns to the broader technical goal, understanding the wreck as a whole. Accounts from 1912 and later studies suggested Titanic broke into more than one section during the sinking. To confirm that, the researchers begin following the debris field that extends beyond the bow, searching for metal rails, twisted plates, and torn internal structures. The logic is straightforward. Where the trail grows denser, the odds of finding the other major section increase. As the camera moves away from the bow, the debris field thickens. Larger plates, crossed beams, and internal parts suggest the hull rupture scattered structures across hundreds of meters. The researchers know that in wrecks of this scale, engine and propeller zones often concentrate heavy components, bearings, shafts, and turbine parts. The evidence suggests the deep tow is nearing the zone where Titanic's other major section may have settled. The seafloor pattern shifts as the deep tow enters the engine area zone. Gears, shafts, and heavy blocks confirm the ship's internal framework was torn loose and scattered before reaching the seabed. Titanic studies had already suggested that the region near the boilers and propellers endured extreme stress during the breakup. What the team sees now reinforces that view. They are crossing the area where part of the central section disintegrated, likely leading toward a second large portion of the hull. With the engine zone identified, the team expects signs of even larger structures ahead. In wrecks like Titanic, the second major section often carries collapsed decks, hull stretches, and elements linked to the propellers. Sonar records show broader anomalies further on, suggesting a single mass, not just scattered fragments. The strategy now is to keep the camera sled at a safe height above the bottom, allowing the light beam to reach possible vertical walls or large curved surfaces. Images of a fractured wall suggest the camera is approaching a major portion of the hull, distinct from dispersed debris. The height, plate thickness, and presence of openings imply this is not just loose steel. Sonar logs show a continuous volume ahead, consistent with the size of an entire ship section. The researchers begin treating this area as a candidate for Titanic's second major part, likely linked to the stern region, where structural deformation was most intense. As the camera tracks across the large structure, the pattern becomes clear. This isn't a single wall. It's a substantial mass of hull, collapsed decks, and exposed internal spaces. The dimensions, the distance from the bow, and the associated debris match Titanic's stern section. The combination of sonar data, images, and maps allows the team to confirm that two major parts of the ship rest separately on the North Atlantic floor, with a debris corridor linking bow and stern as the signature of the final breakup. With the bow, debris field, and stern section mapped, the wreck site stops being a lost point in the Atlantic and becomes a coherent structure. Titanic's two main parts rest hundreds of meters apart, connected by a corridor of boilers, machinery, and deck fragments. The evidence confirms the ship broke before reaching the bottom, scattering entire sections during the descent. From 1985 onward, any study of Titanic must consider not just the location, but the full configuration of this debris field. With the site fully mapped, the discovery becomes more than a dot at 3,800 meters. Images of the raised bow, the debris corridor, and the main stern section show, in concrete terms, how Titanic broke apart before hitting the seafloor. For the 1985 researchers, this closes decades of debate driven only by survivor accounts and assumptions. From here forward, diagrams, structural studies, and simulations rely on hard data from the North Atlantic floor, captured frame by the towed camera. For the researchers on board, the work in the North Atlantic doesn't end when the camera leaves the debris field. It ends when the data is consolidated. Hours of footage, maps, sonar plots, and position reports form the first complete portrait of where Titanic has rested since 1912. The 1985 discovery doesn't change the past, but it ends the uncertainty about where and how the ship reached the bottom. From this point on, what was once memory now has coordinates, measurements, and precise images.